that's even more dramatic than Mercury.
Mercury would be like your drama queen, who everything is one way or the other. It's terrible, or it's great, or it's the best, or it's the worst, right? As Venus is just grumpy all the time, always in a bad mood.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm a science teacher.
I'm Cheryl, and I slept through science.
Each episode will tackle a science question you may have learned in school, but can't quite remember or fully explain.
And I'll take the risk of asking the dumb questions so that we can all understand the science we slept through.
The bell has rung. Let's get started.
Welcome to lesson 79. We are in our deadly solar system unit. Cheryl, last week we talked about Mercury. So this week we're going to talk about
Venus.
Venus, exactly. Venus. I'd like to do what we did last week, which is start by just figuring out, what do you already know about the planet Venus?
Oh gosh, Ryan, it's pretty similar to the amount I know about Mercury. It's just not very much. It's not one that I feel like got all the, it wasn't like a big popular one. I mean, I know women are from Venus. So like, you know.
So you should know more about it. It's your home planet, is what you're saying.
It's so stupid. I mean, it's our neighbor. So I'm guessing that it and Mars might be in some ways the most similar to Earth. Maybe as far as like we're close, we're more similar distance from the sun compared to everything else going on. I feel like it's somewhat of a similar size to Earth, but I don't know if that's based on a feeling or if that's because I heard that at one point.
Okay.
So like I don't know if it's actually true or not, but like I feel like I heard that. I'm getting a blue from it.
What are you reading? Its aura or something? Yeah. I'm sensing a blue.
Yeah, I'm getting a blue. And again, I don't know like if that's true or if I'm just making that up because I thought Mercury might be red and that wasn't true. But like I'm getting a blue. And if it does have a blue, does that mean it has water? Do we have any water on Venus? I don't know. I'm just going to ask you questions because I'm out of things that I know. I'm going to guess that the year is longer than Mercury and shorter than Earth, perhaps.
Okay.
And that's about where we are.
Okay.
What I know or could guess about Venus.
All right. Well, last week we talked about the extreme temperatures on Mercury. What do you think the temperatures might look like on Venus?
Well, now that I understand the importance of an atmosphere, I'm going to say if it has an atmosphere, it might be more similar to Earth, but maybe just like everything's a little hotter because it's closer to the sun.
Hotter than
Earth.
Okay.
But if it doesn't have an atmosphere, then it's probably a really similar experience to Mercury.
Okay.
So I don't know. But if it is blue, I'm going to guess it has an atmosphere because can you have water on a planet without an atmosphere? I don't think you can.
Oh, can you have water on a planet without an atmosphere? When you say water, do you mean liquid water?
Yeah.
Or do you mean H2O?
I mean liquid water. Like
liquid water, okay.
Oceans, lakes, things like that.
Gotcha.
I don't think you can. I think you have to. You have to have an atmosphere to have water. So if it, again, this is all because I think it's blue, that I think it probably has water. But if that's true, then it would have an atmosphere.
Okay. How do you think the temperature on the surface of Venus compares to the temperature on the surface of Mercury?
Cooler than Mercury.
Okay.
Because it's further away from the sun. That's all I have to go on.
Yep. And that,
hotter than Earth,
and that is
cooler than Mercury.
Totally reasonable guess. However, if I told you that on the surface of Venus is actually the hottest planet, in the
What?
solar system. It actually gets hotter on the surface of Venus than it does on the surface of Mercury. Any ideas how that might be possible?
Well, then I'm guessing it doesn't have an atmosphere.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
Because, well, we were talking about last week, we talked about the insulation that our atmosphere gives us and the protection that it gives
Okay.
us in terms of heat. And that's why it's so extreme on Mercury. So then is there something on Venus that's like reflective? And so it's getting even hotter because of it's interacting with the sunlight. It has to be interacting with the sunlight in a different way than Mercury is. But I don't know what.
Okay.
Is it like the material on the planet? Kind of like if you like laid on foil out in the sun, you would get more
Which I don't
burnt.
recommend.
I think people used to do that to get tan faster.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think in the
probably.
70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or is it something to do with like, well, no, because Mercury, the day is longer than the year. So it's there's parts of that where it's just pointing to the sun for like a long time. Because that'd be another guess I'd have is it just like facing the sun, like one half the planet for a really long time. So it's heating up. But more than Mercury? Trying to think what else would make it hotter. Does it have volcanoes? Does it have like there's got to be something to do with what it's made of, I would guess. Like
Okay. What it's
if
made
it
of is what you
does
think.
have an atmosphere, how is it getting hotter?
Why do you ask that question?
Because we learned that Mercury gets those extreme temperatures because it doesn't have an atmosphere protecting it. But if Venus did have an atmosphere and you're telling me it gets hotter, then is it like it would have to be a different type of an atmosphere than what we have, I would guess. So
Okay.
is it like thicker, so it just like sucks up all that heat and doesn't let it go out? Is it super humid? No, humidity and temperature are different. Like what? I don't know.
What do you mean sucking up and not letting it out? What do you mean by that?
I don't know. Like I was thinking about the insulation that an atmosphere provides. Is it like is it something where it's absorbing a lot of the heat and then
From?
the sun?
Okay.
But then if it has an atmosphere,
Uh-huh.
then it just keeps it in there because of the insulation. But there's something about Venus that's like absorbing more of the heat than our planet does. Or
Okay.
Mercury. Is it just a metal ball?
Yes, it's a metal ball. You got it figured out.
Okay, great. Yeah, episode over.
Done. There's clearly nothing else that needs to be said. In order to get an answer to your question, I do want to go over a few of the basics. First of all, I'm sorry, Cheryl. Venus is not blue.
Oh my gosh, one of these days I'm going to get the color right. But
One
it's
of
not
these
today.
days, you're going to get the color right, but no, not today. As a matter of fact, I would love to show you a picture of Venus. It's actually
Yes,
technically two
please.
pictures of Venus.
I would
And
love
then
that.
I'd love for you to describe what you're seeing.
It looks like quartz.
What do you mean?
Well, it's like a white with like a little bit of orangish and like kind of like very variegated color. You know, there's like different little stripies of different colors
Yep.
going on.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks a lot like quartz.
Looks a lot like quartz. Yeah, a lot of whitish gray. And then, yeah, you've got some kind of orangish colors in there.
Yeah.
Based on these images, do you think Venus has an atmosphere?
Yes.
Why do you say that?
Because of these different lines of things that I see.
Mm-hmm.
Like it looks Gosh, I don't know if those are necessarily clouds because this is so far away. Like we're seeing the whole
Mm-hmm.
planet here. But it
Mm-hmm.
reminds me of clouds or like just there's like something murky going on. So it doesn't look like we're just seeing like the actual surface on its
Yeah.
own necessarily. Because there's
Yeah.
like
I think
texture here.
there is texture, and at least one of the words I would use to describe it is wispy, especially around
Yeah.
like the poles. It looks a little bit more wispy. And yes, Venus has an atmosphere.
Okay.
And just like we talked about with Mercury, whether or not it has an atmosphere is kind of the whole point that leads to the conditions that we're talking about.
Okay.
Not only does Venus have an atmosphere, Venus has an incredibly thick atmosphere. Like,
That was one of my guesses.
it was one of your guesses. Yes, yes. But so thick, and there's so much air pressure that if you were on the surface of Venus, it would be more than 90 times the air pressure you experience on the surface of Earth.
So is it like an instant pot?
In a sense, tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, we do need to talk about how my instant pot works one of these days because I don't
Yes.
know how, but I do know that it's able to increase the temperature because it's increasing the pressure inside of my
Right.
instant pot.
Yes, that is a contributing factor. That's not the only thing, but yes, that is definitely a contributing factor, is that you've got that crazy amount of pressure. Just to give you another comparison, it's like being almost a mile below the ocean as far as the amount of pressure that you would feel.
Oh, you just have like the worst headache.
Amongst other things, yes.
Would you just die of a migraine? Is that what would get you?
You could think of it that way. There would be several issues. You would die because of the pressure, so that would be
Okay.
one. On the surface of Venus, it's even hotter as well. It's about 900 degrees Fahrenheit.
Whoa. Oh my
Do
goodness.
you remember the temperature on the surface of Mercury?
It can get up to 800.
800. So this is 100 degrees hotter, even though the planet is farther away. And the pressure is a part of it, but the atmosphere and the thickness of the atmosphere is the other part. Most of Venus's atmosphere is made of carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is really, really famous on Earth right now. Do you know why?
Right now?
Right now.
Oh my gosh, no. I mean, no. What's famous right now about carbon dioxide?
It's causing global climate change.
Oh,
because we keep
okay.
dumping more and more carbon dioxide into our atmosphere,
Yeah.
which is causing the greenhouse effect, which I'm guessing you've heard of before.
Yes. I thought you meant
Which-
like this week.
Well, it is happening this week.
Well, no, I thought you meant like there's something that just happened in current events.
I
or
see.
something.
No, sorry. No, but I mean, it is current. It is happening
Yeah.
right now. It's kind of
Yeah.
a big deal. And it's a problem that scientists and engineers and other people are trying to work to figure out how do we deal with, because Venus, we are pretty sure, had a runaway greenhouse effect where it got so hot, and because carbon dioxide does a great job of trapping heat. So once the atmosphere absorbs that heat and it reaches the surface, carbon dioxide keeps it from going back out into space again. And it just traps it in like a blanket, like an insulator, like you've talked about. And carbon dioxide is really, really good at it. And Venus has a lot of carbon dioxide in its atmosphere.
Wow. So it's a
Yeah.
cautionary tale.
It is, in a lot of ways, a cautionary
Wow.
tale. Yeah. Yeah. Also, and this is not really why it's super hot, but also just an interesting thing about the atmosphere of Venus, it's full of sulfuric acid.
Oh, we don't like that either, right?
Well, I mean,
For
no.
breathing purposes.
Yeah, like if you breathed it in, it would like burn your lungs from the inside. So
Oh gosh.
I'm going
So
to
you would
recommend against
die-
that.
I think on all of these planets so far, what I'm gathering is the first thing that would kill you is suffocation.
Potentially.
But then also in that temperature, you wouldn't last long either.
Nope.
And
And
the
then on
pressure
Venus, you'd get crushed.
pop. Would you pop?
Yeah. No, you would implode. You'd be crushed.
Ooh. Oh gosh.
Because you're being pushed in on all sides.
So the pressure might get you even before, or it just all would get you at once? Because
I
all of
mean,
those things you wouldn't last long.
yeah, it depends. Are you descending through the atmosphere? Because you probably wouldn't make it to the surface. You'd
No,
probably
I'm
die
thinking
before
I'm
that.
teleporting
If you
there.
just
All of a
were
sudden, I'm just like
teleported
there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking you'd probably die of being crushed first. That's going to be my guess.
Okay.
Because it's going to
Interesting.
instantly be more pressure than you can handle.
Yeah, that just like is such a bad headache there, you know.
Yeah, it'd probably be so fast that you probably wouldn't notice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wouldn't
Wow.
be great. And then you also mentioned something that we think contributed to the state of the atmosphere, but not necessarily to the overall temperature directly. Venus does have lots of volcanoes on the surface also.
Oh, really?
We don't know for sure if any of them are currently active. We think there might be some active ones, but it's kind of hard to get things to the surface. The old Soviet Union actually sent probes. Those are the only probes that have ever actually landed on the surface of
Really?
Venus.
Wow.
Yeah, and they actually took some pictures from the surface of Venus. But the longest that one of their probes lasted, I think, was 2 hours before it got crushed, and that was like all metal.
But I bet someday they will be able to invent something that will be able to withstand that pressure. Like technology just keeps getting more and more advanced. So
Yes, that is true. The technology does get more and more advanced. Do you want to see a picture
yes, absolutely.
from those probes? Here, I'm just going to do a quick Google image search because it's a little bit faster. But these are some of the actual images from the surface of Venus. Now, some of them are obviously black and white. Doesn't look all that exciting, does it?
No.
Yeah, that's
Interesting.
kind of it. Yeah.
Just
Well, there's like
rocky.
rocks. Yeah. Rocks and dust. And you can see sort of the bottom of the probe there.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of see in the background the atmosphere. And it does look pretty thick.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's
It's kind
all
of
like
a,
murky.
well, yeah. And in this image, it's sort of a yellowish. I don't know that that's necessarily a real color. If that's a false color, I'd have to dive into that a little bit more. But
Interesting.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then just for kicks, because we talked about this with Mercury, so I wanted to mention it as well. One day on Venus is 243 Earth days.
Oh gosh.
So it takes a really long time for it to rotate around once on its axis. And 1 year is 225 Earth days.
Okay, so my year guess was correct. It's between the Mercury amount and the Earth amount.
Yeah. But again, one
Wow.
day on Venus is longer than 1 year on Venus.
This planet's even more dramatic than Mercury.
It is. But for different
Wow.
it's not as extreme. It's more consistent. It's just consistent. So Mercury would be like your drama queen who everything is one way or the other. It's
yeah.
terrible or it's great or it's the best or it's the worst, right? As Venus is just grumpy all the time. Always in a bad mood.
There's like nothing going for it though. It's like nothing's going right. If
No.
you're not getting crushed, you're suffocating. If you're not suffocating, you're getting overheated and baking.
Or being burned by acid in the atmosphere. Yeah, all of those great things.
Or
Corrosive.
like volcanoes. I don't know. Yeah, just a lot
Yeah.
of things going on. Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so my mind just made up that Venus was blue. Like in my mind, it looked pretty similar to Earth, but that's just one of the planets is blue.
Yes, there's at least one planet that is blue, but I'm not going to tell you which one. We're going to wait and see how long it takes you to get it.
I know. I'm just going to keep guessing blue until I get it right.
But I wonder, here's the thing. Venus is really, really similar to Earth. It's only about 1.1 times smaller than Earth. So it's almost
Okay.
exactly the same size. It's the closest planet to Earth. And so in a lot of ways, oftentimes people talk about Venus as our twin. So I wonder if you kind
Oh,
of
yes.
had that in
I've
your
heard
head.
that. Yes.
And Earth is oftentimes called the blue planet sometimes. So I wonder if you had sort of like combined those two ideas that like, oh, they're about the same. And so maybe it was
Yeah.
blue. Maybe
I
that's where you
think
got
I
that
knew
from.
the size thing, and I think I knew that it was compared in some way. So then I thought
Yeah.
like maybe it just has little oceans like we do and everything. But now it's starting to make sense why people are not looking to how they could live on Venus so much
Right.
as they're looking at how to live on Mars. So
Exactly.
a
Yes. Even
future
though Venus is
lesson we'll
closer.
learn. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. We will talk about that soon. All right, Cheryl, it's now time for your Venusian? I don't know what that word is. Your Venus quiz.
Everything's awful, and I have a headache, and it's too hot. Do I sound like Venus?
Okay,
Did I do it
Venus. Yeah,
right?
you do. You totally. Yeah. Nice job. Nice job. First question, just like we had our first question for Mercury, what does Venus look like?
Quartz.
Okay.
It's
Tell me a little bit
white.
more.
It's murky. It has a thick atmosphere, so it's got some like wispies. Just yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Similar size to Earth.
Great.
Round.
What is, yeah, round, always good. What is unique about Venus's atmosphere?
It's really thick and it has a lot of carbon dioxide in it. And it is very, very high pressure there.
Yep.
And it just keeps all that heat in. It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. And this is, you're sort of heading towards the next question, but we'll need a little bit more detail.
Okay.
How can Venus be hotter than Mercury, even though it's farther away from the sun?
Because it does have an atmosphere. Surprise, surprise.
Surprise.
And it just like keeps all that heat in, both because of the pressure and because of the carbon dioxide that makes the greenhouse effect. Yes, both and.
Both. Yep.
Both are
More the
contributing.
carbon dioxide. Yeah.
Okay.
But yes.
But also it's an instant pot, so like that's got to be worth something, you know.
It's got to be worth something.
Yeah, it just traps all that heat in and does not let it leave. Insulates only with the heat. Like an old house in an attic in the summertime. You just felt that. I watched you feel that.
Yeah. What are the different ways that Venus could kill you if you were to visit?
Oh, gosh. Well, first of all, you'd implode. Just like real fast.
Yep.
And then you wouldn't be able to breathe the air, both because of sulfuric acid and because of carbon dioxide.
Right.
And you would overheat and just cook right up. You actually could cook there as opposed to when we talked about being close to the sun. You're not really cooking in the same way. You're just like dehydrating, right? But I think you could actually like brown up real nice. It seems like on Venus.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you were to crack an egg on the surface, it would probably be hot enough to fry the egg and probably even vaporize the egg potentially. So, you know, I don't know. I'd have to look up the exact vaporization temperatures, but yeah. Okay. I have a bonus question for you.
Oh boy. Okay.
Would you, Cheryl, rather visit Mercury or Venus, and why?
Oh goodness. Are we assuming I'm safe in this situation? Like, am I in some like magic space suit?
Let's do both.
Like,
let's do the magic space suit and then also the not magic space suit.
Okay, magic space suit. I'm going with Venus, and I'd like to bring some props with me, just to like do some experiments, like see what happens to that egg, or like put out a soda can. Does it just like crunch up? instantly. Like what's happening to these things, because I think there's more like interesting things happening with that pressure, and just that there is an atmosphere, but the air is so different there. Like that would be kind of fun to play with. Go check out a volcano. That sounds interesting. Yeah, see what sulfuric acid does to skin. I don't know.
Okay.
But if I don't have my magic spacesuit, I would rather visit Mercury, because I don't like pressure headaches very much, you know, and so I mean, I would die on either planet as we're discussing, but I feel like, well, but I can't breathe on Mercury. I was gonna say, do I just like make a little igloo situation? I guess if I had some sort, I don't know, special breathing ability, then I would just like tough out those temperatures and not have to deal with the pressure. I know I wouldn't actually tough out those temperatures.
Okay. All right.
It sounds less miserable because of the pressure. Yeah, just like I'm like getting a headache thinking about.
Well, I don't want you to have a headache. So why don't we go ahead and wrap up things for the class today, pack up your stuff, and get ready for my closing remarks.
You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at I Slept Through Science, or on Twitter at Slept Science.
If you have dumb science questions like I do, please send them to us. You can email us at isleptthroughscience@gmail.com, or you can even send us a voice memo and we'll play it on the podcast.
Please rate and review our podcast to tell other people what you think about it, subscribe to make sure you don't miss an episode, and share about our podcast on social media.
Thank you to Beth Reed Miller for the artwork. You can check out more of Beth's artwork at Beth Is Something. Okay, great. Thanks. Bye.
The bell doesn't dismiss you. I dismiss you.